I want you to picture your backyard right now. Not the one you're planning to build someday, the one you actually have. Now picture a stranger walking into it for the first time. What's the first thing they'd notice? For most people, it's not the plants, it's not the lawn, it's the little details, the things that make a space feel like someone actually lives there and cares about it, instead of just mows it once a week. Today, I'm showing you 15 garden decor ideas, and I'm not talking about buying an expensive statue or a fountain. I'm talking about small, clever, often surprisingly cheap details that most people have simply never thought of, because they're not the kind of thing you'd find by browsing a garden center. Number 10 on this list is the one I get asked about the most whenever someone sees my backyard in person. It looks complicated, it looks expensive, and it's actually neither. I'm not telling you what it is yet. You'll know it when you get there. Let's start. Welcome back to Daily Garden Fix, the channel that proves a genuinely beautiful backyard doesn't require a genuinely big budget. Quick favor before we start. Comment the number of the idea that surprises you most once you finish watching. I read every single comment, and I want to know which one actually catches you off guard, because it's usually not the one people expect. Idea 1. Idea 1. The broken pot fairy garden. Idea number 1. If you've ever cracked a ceramic pot and felt genuinely annoyed about it, here's a reason to stop throwing them away. Take the broken pot, arrange the largest pieces on their sides so they look like the pot has gently tipped over and spilled, and nestle small succulents, moss, or trailing plants so they appear to be spilling out of the crack, like a tiny overflowing waterfall of greenery. The trick here is that broken actually looks better than whole. A perfectly intact pot with plants in it looks normal. A broken one, arranged deliberately, looks like a piece of art you designed on purpose, and it's something you could never buy pre-made from a store, because it depends entirely on the unique shape of your specific crack. Budget? 0. Using a pot you already broke by accident. Idea 2. The wine cork garden border idea number 2. If you or anyone you know drinks wine even occasionally, you're sitting on free garden decor and don't know it. Save corks over time. Even a couple months of collecting from friends and family adds up fast. And push them, cut side down, tightly together into the soil along the edge of a small flower bed or path, like a row of tiny wooden teeth. The rounded tops create a soft, textured, entirely unique border unlike anything you'd find at a hardware store. It's a slow build project, which is part of the charm. Every cork represents an actual evening, an actual bottle, an actual memory, which makes the finished border genuinely mean something, not just look nice. Budget? 0 if you're already collecting corks. Idea 3. The painted river rock path markers. Idea number 3. Smooth, flat river rocks. The kind you can find at almost any craft store for a couple dollars a bag, or even collected for free near a creek bed. Become genuinely charming path markers with a bit of outdoor paint. Paint each rock a single solid color, then once dry, add a simple design on top. A number, a small flower, a house number, or even just a single stripe. Line them along a walkway, or use them to mark where different plants or herbs are growing. What makes this surprising is how different it looks from a store-bought stepping stone. Hand-painted rocks have a slightly imperfect, handmade charm that mass-produced concrete stones simply can't replicate, no matter how much they cost. Budget: $2 to $5 for a bag of rocks, plus paint you likely already have. Idea 4. The upside-down umbrella planter. Idea number 4. An old umbrella, the kind with a broken frame that can no longer close or open properly, becomes a genuinely striking hanging planter. And this is one almost nobody has seen before, which is exactly why it stops people in their tracks. Open the umbrella fully, even if it's a bit lopsided from the broken frame, and hang it upside down from a pergola beam or a sturdy tree branch using rope tied to the handle. Fill the fabric canopy with a shallow layer of soil and plant shallow-rooted flowers or trailing vines directly into the fabric itself or into small pots nestled inside it. The unexpected shape, a giant floating bowl of flowers hovering above a patio, is genuinely one of the most talked about pieces you can add to a backyard, and it costs nothing beyond an umbrella you were about to throw away anyway. Budget? 0. Using a broken umbrella you already have. Idea 5. The vintage spoon plant markers. Idea number 5. Old metal spoons, mismatched ones from a thrift store or ones from your own kitchen drawer that don't match anything anymore, make beautiful, sturdy, weatherproof plant markers. Flatten the bowl of the spoon slightly with a hammer on a hard surface, then use a metal stamping kit, available cheaply at most craft stores, to stamp the plant name directly into the metal. Push the handle into the soil beside the plant. Unlike plastic or paper markers, metal spoons last for years outdoors without fading, cracking, or degrading in the sun, and the slightly mismatched, vintage look of thrifted spoons adds real character that a uniform set of matching markers never quite achieves. Budget: $2 to $5 for a set of thrifted spoons, plus a one-time cost of $10 to $15 for a stamping kit you'll reuse for years. 5 ideas in, 10 more to go. Coming up, a lighting idea using something you'd never guess, a decoration that costs literally nothing and takes 5 minutes, and, of course, idea number 10, still coming. Keep watching, because the next one is genuinely one of my favorites on this whole list. Idea 6, the mason jar chandelier. Idea number 6. If you've got a few mason jars sitting around and a sturdy tree branch or pergola beam overhead, you can build a genuinely striking outdoor chandelier for almost nothing. Wrap a length of wire around the neck of each jar, twisting it into a loop for hanging. Place a small battery-powered candle or fairy light strand inside each jar. Hang several jars at slightly different heights from a horizontal branch or beam using rope or chain, clustering them together rather than spacing them evenly. At dusk, the effect is genuinely stunning. A warm, glowing cluster of light hanging in your backyard that looks like something out of an outdoor wedding, at a fraction of the cost people usually pay for that exact look. Budget: $5 to $10 for jars, wire, and battery-powered lights, if you don't already have them. Idea 7. The driftwood plant stand. Idea number 7. A sturdy, interestingly shaped piece of driftwood or fallen branch, found for free in your own yard or a local park, becomes a genuinely unique plant stand once you sand it smooth and seal it. Look for a piece with a natural fork or flat resting spot where a pot can sit securely. Sand any rough or splintering edges, then apply a coat of clear outdoor sealant to protect it from rot and weather. Set a potted plant directly on the natural resting point. Because every piece of driftwood is different, no two of these ever look alike, which means this is one decoration on the entire list that's genuinely, literally impossible for anyone else to have the exact same version of. Budget: $0, using wood you find, plus a few dollars for sealant if you don't already have some. Idea 8. The chalkboard fence panel. Idea number 8. One single fence panel, painted with chalkboard paint, turns into a rotating, ever-changing piece of garden decor. And this is a genuinely surprising one, because most people only think of chalkboard paint for kitchens or kids' rooms. Paint one section of your fence, roughly 2 to 3 feet wide, with a couple coats of outdoor-rated chalkboard paint. Once dry, use it to write a seasonal quote, sketch a simple design, track what you planted and when, or let kids in the household draw on it. Because it's a chalkboard, it never looks stale. You can change it as often as you want, which means this single piece of decor is never really finished, and that's exactly what makes it interesting to look at over and over. Budget: $8 to $12 for a small can of outdoor chalkboard paint. Idea 9. The hanging bottle wind spinner. Idea number 9. Empty glass bottles, hung so they can gently knock against each other in the breeze. Create both a visual and audio piece of garden decor that most people have never actually seen done well. Drill a small hole near the top of several bottles, thread wire or fishing line through each, and hang them from a horizontal branch or beam at slightly different heights, close enough together that a breeze causes them to gently clink against one another. The colored glass catches light beautifully during the day, and the soft, random clinking sound in the evening adds something most garden decor completely ignores: sound. Almost every idea on this list is purely visual. This one gives your backyard an actual soundtrack. Budget: $0, using bottles you already have. Idea 10, the living wall clock. And now, idea number 10, the one I told you about at the start, the one people ask me about the most whenever they see it in person, because it looks far more complicated and far more expensive than it actually is. Take a large, plain wall clock face, the kind sold cheaply at almost any home store, without the hands or mechanism, just the round backing, and mount it to a wooden board or directly onto a sturdy trellis frame. Around the entire outer edge of the clock face, mount a ring of small mounted cups or tiny pots, using the exact same wire mounting method we've covered before, spaced evenly like the numbers on a clock. Plant each small pot with a compact succulent or trailing plant, and mount an actual working clock mechanism, sold cheaply at craft stores, in the very center, with the hands poking through. What you end up with is an honest-to-goodness working wall clock, surrounded by a living ring of plants, mounted on your fence or exterior wall. It genuinely tells time, it genuinely grows, and almost nobody who sees it for the first time believes it wasn't purchased from an expensive boutique shop. This is exactly the kind of detail that stops a stranger walking into your backyard, because it does something no other piece on this list does. It combines something completely unexpected, a clock, with something completely expected, in a garden, living plants, and neither element makes sense without the other right next to it. Budget, around $15 to $20 total, including the clock mechanism, a plain clock face or board, and a handful of small plants. Idea 11. The teacup birdbath idea number 11. Mismatched thrifted teacups, stacked and glued, make a genuinely charming miniature birdbath perfect for a small garden corner. Glue a small saucer to the top of an upside-down flower pot for height. Then glue a teacup directly on top of the saucer, right side up. Once the glue fully cures, using a strong, waterproof outdoor adhesive, fill the teacup with fresh water. This is scaled specifically for small birds, and it adds a genuinely whimsical, storybook feeling to a garden corner that a standard large stone bird bath simply doesn't have. Budget, $3 to $6 for thrifted teacup and saucer pieces. Idea 12. The garden hose wreath. Idea number 12. An old, cracked, or leaking garden hose that's no longer usable for actual watering makes a surprisingly good base for an outdoor wreath. Coil the hose into a circle, securing the shape with zip ties spaced evenly around the loop. Weave in artificial greenery, dried flowers, or small pine cones through the coils, and hang the finished wreath on a shed door, fence gate, or garden wall. It's a specifically weatherproof wreath, since the base material is literally designed to survive outdoors permanently, which means unlike a typical decorative wreath, this one won't fall apart after one rainy season. Budget, $0, using a hose you are about to throw away. Idea 13. The stacked tile stepping stones. Idea number 13. Leftover ceramic tiles from a past home renovation project, even mismatched, broken, or partial ones, can be embedded into wet concrete to create genuinely unique stepping stones for a garden path. Pour a simple concrete mix into a round or square mold, and while it's still wet, press broken tile pieces into the surface in a mosaic pattern. Let it cure fully according to the concrete's instructions. Then place the finished stones along a path. Because you're using leftover tile, no two stones ever look the same, and the mosaic pattern gives each one a genuinely artistic, one-of-a-kind quality that a plain poured concrete stepping stone from a hardware store just doesn't have. Budget, $5 to $10 for a bag of concrete mix, using tile you already have. Idea 14. The ladder plant display idea number 14. An old wooden ladder, the kind too rickety or unstable to actually climb anymore, becomes a genuinely eye-catching tiered plant display when leaned against a wall or fence instead of thrown away. Lean the ladder at a stable angle against a sturdy surface, and set potted plants on each rung, using smaller pots on the higher rungs and larger ones near the bottom for visual balance. The natural height variation this creates does a lot of the design work for you automatically, since you're forced into a tiered, layered look just by the shape of the ladder itself. Budget, $0. Using a ladder you already own and were planning to get rid of. Bonus idea 15. The Story Stone Collection bonus idea. And this is the one I want to leave you with, because unlike everything else on this list, it's not really about the visual result. It's about what it becomes over time. Every time something meaningful happens in your family, a birthday, the day you planted your first tree, a visit from someone special, paint a small, smooth stone with the date and a tiny symbol representing that event, then add it to a growing cluster near your favorite spot in the garden. Over years, this becomes a physical timeline of your life, sitting quietly in your backyard, and unlike almost every other piece of decor on this list, its value doesn't come from how it looks to a stranger walking by. It comes from what it means to you every single time you walk past it, and remember exactly why that stone is there. Budget, $0. Using stones you already have and paint you likely already own. So there you have it, 15 creative garden decor ideas, most of which cost next to nothing, and several of which you've genuinely probably never seen before today. Quick recap: the broken pot fairy garden, the wine cork border, painted river rock markers, the upside-down umbrella planter, and vintage spoon plant markers, the mason jar chandelier, the driftwood plant stand, the chalkboard fence panel, and the hanging bottle wind spinner. Idea 10, the living wall clock. The teacup bird bath, the garden hose wreath, stacked tile stepping stones, the ladder plant display, and finally, the story stone collection. Now here's what I actually want from you. Comment the number of the idea that surprised you most. I genuinely want to know which one caught you off guard, because I have a theory about which idea wins, and I want to see if I'm right. And if you know someone whose backyard is functional but never quite feels finished, send them this video. Sometimes it's not about buying more plants, it's about the small, unexpected details nobody else has thought of yet. Next week on Daily Garden Fix, I'm covering 15 more ideas, this time entirely focused on nighttime garden lighting you can build yourself. Subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Pick one idea, just one, and see what it does to how your backyard feels.